First off, let me start by introducing myself. My name is Jamilah. See? Jamilah. I am a advocate / survivor of CIDP, which is chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous trying to get into this whole thing. Basically, I wanted to make this YouTube video being that I'm starting to get into advocacy work for people with rare diseases, especially people like me with my current rare disease. It's actually been kind of a bit of a long time coming for me, but I kind of wanted to wait until the right time to be able to explain the disease and kind of give the world a bit of an insight about what goes on with people with CIDP, and for any of the people that I know to give them a little bit more insight as to what's going on with me. So this video is encompassing all of that today. So first and foremost, let's talk about what we're here to talk about. So as I mentioned before, I have a rare disease called CIDP. Again, it's chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. So basically what went on with my body, and this is kind of gonna explain the whole entire, or a little bit about the backstory of what was going on. I was literally just normal. I was working full time. I had a photography business. I was training to be a professional dancer, all while living in Orlando, Florida. And all of a sudden, I just couldn't walk anymore. Like, it was becoming very, very difficult for me to be able to just get up and go. Like how other people can just mosey along. It was getting real difficult for me. Like, it was like dwindling down to where I had to use walkers, having to use an office chair, having to almost practically crawl if I fell, because for some reason I just wasn't able to get up off of the floor. It was a lot of different things that were going on. So basically what's going on is my nervous system is being attacked, or I won't say my nervous system, but certain nerves in my body were being attacked by my immune system. Usually I believe the cells or the antibodies that are used to protect you from infectious diseases and everything like that, they kind of went into hyper overdrive, or whatever the case may be. And it's kind of like one of those things where if you think about war and a soldier sees a terrorist and they're like, we gotta go get him, and then they're like, blah. That's basically what was happening to my nerves. So the antibodies are attacking the myelin sheath, which is the coating that is around your nerve endings, or around your nerves, period. And when that myelin sheath is compromised, that exposes the inside of the nerve, which causes severe nerve damage. And in my case, it caused severe paralysis of my legs and my arms, and obviously my hands, my feet, all of that. That's pretty much CIDP in a nutshell. It is also, it's also considered the sister form of GBS, or Guillain-Barré syndrome. So if you look that up as well, you can kind of see the similarities as to the two diseases. Guillain-Barré syndrome tends to be a bit more severe than CIDP, but the same things can happen to people with CIDP that are similar to GBS. You know, a little, like a smidgen less intense. But it is different for everybody's case. Some people, they lose total loss of bodily function from like shoulders down, neck down. Maybe sometimes even their mouth, like they can't move their mouth, they can't breathe. Maybe I'm talking more about GBS, but I guess I'm kind of giving you a crash course of both of those diseases together. In research that I've done, I've seen that it's about 1 in 300,000, I want to say, or 1 in 100,000 people. Yeah, it's 1 in 100,000 people that are usually affected with the disease. It takes about 2 months for it to be diagnosed, which in my opinion is a little bit 2 months too late, but it is what it is. But it takes 2 months to diagnose. Usually any doctor, neuromuscular specialist that you're going to, when they're diagnosing the disease, they're usually doing EKGs, spinal taps, and other nerve conduction tests in order to test the strength of your nerves, see what your CF fluids are like, if there's a lot of protein levels in your cerebral fluids, and then EEGs or EKGs are just another nerve conduction test that they're doing, just to see if when they send electrical signals, are your muscles going to respond? Are your nerves sending signals to your brain to help your muscles respond to the electrical systems? Now that we've got a little bit of the gist of CIDP out of the way, I can tell you about my story, my journey, and what things are looking like for me today. Early September of 2021, around the time of my birthday, September 3rd, I was noticing that it was becoming increasingly difficult for me to walk around like normal, to walk around my house just normally, not being able or not having to hold on to walls or anything like that. I was doing a lot of that. And over time, it just kept dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. I started feeling like kind of like pins and needles, tingling types of feelings in my feet and in my calves. That's where it started. And then it was going towards my arms, like in my forearm area, and also progressed to my hands. The feeling that I felt in my hands was kind of like I would lose feeling here, then I would lose feeling here, and then I would lose feeling all over, and then it would just continue cycling until I was completely debilitated for the most part. And at this time, I was living by myself. Like I said, I was living in Florida, working full time. I had a photography business. I had friends and colleagues that I was training under so that I could train to become a professional dancer one day. Also starting to choreograph my own sequences. I was also teaching. So there was a lot of different things that I was doing. Like I was literally on go. It was a lot of me working to pay for my apartment so that my cat had somewhere to stay and play, basically. And for the most part, I was able to manage for a pretty good while up until late November, early December is when I was completely debilitated and all that good stuff. So backtracking one more time, in the process of me losing my ability to walk and to do things by myself, I did go to the doctor. I went to 2 different hospitals. First, I went to Orlando Health. When I went there, I told them my symptoms that I was having, and they basically said that I was experiencing peripheral edema, which coincided with a knee injury that I had in July of 2021. And I came back to the hospital because that's what I thought it was. I thought it was just, a side effect of something from my knee injury. So like I said, they diagnosed me with peripheral edema. They gave me kind of like a brochure type of thing, basically just telling me to do some exercises and to elevate my legs. I should be okay. So I was like, okay, no problem. I went home and I started doing all of that, and I was noticing that as I kept doing these things, it became increasingly harder for me to actually do them. Like there was nothing that was working, not elevating my feet, not exercising, not even just walking around, period. It was becoming increasingly difficult. There were a couple of times that I fell and I couldn't just pick myself up. I had to literally crawl to my bedroom and prop myself up on my knees, and then I would be able to pull myself onto my bed just to be able to get up. I had to use a walker in order to get around my house. It got to a point where I wasn't even able to leave my house at all because I had to use stairs. And even when I was at my job required me going up and down the stairs to check on the girls that I was working with, and I couldn't even do my job effectively. It was losing my ability to drive. Driving was terrible, and it became increasingly dangerous. So I had to give up driving. I had to give up going to my job. I had to give up a lot of life activities, basically. And then fast forward to my second trip to the hospital, which was probably early November. I went to a different hospital so I could have a second opinion from a different hospital. Went to the hospital and they evaluated my symptoms again. Did no tests. Basically, we only did like a blood test or something like that. And I was only seen by the nurse. The doctor came to see me, and he told me, oh, peripheral edema. So you can imagine the frustration that I was feeling, because it's like I'm going to two different hospitals. I'm telling them that I'm having the same symptoms. The second time I go to the hospital, I'm telling them the symptoms that I have that have gotten much worse, and they're still telling me that I have peripheral edema. And he also prescribed me 14 milligrams of meloxicam and said, take this, do your exercises, elevate your feet, and you should be fine. Like I said, you can imagine the frustration that I had. Also, I forgot to mention that when I went to the hospital, to the first hospital that I went to before, when I walked in there, like I had to have somebody take me to the hospital, which was my dad. He took me to the hospital, and the nurse that I had was kind of aloof a little bit. She didn't ask me any type of questions about my symptoms or anything like that. She just immediately took me to the room, gave me some IV hydration and all of that good stuff. When the doctors came to see me, they said what they said. The doctor that I had was really nice. He tried to empathize with me as much as he possibly could. And as I was leaving, there was like a little crack in the door, and the blinds were also open so you can see inside of the room. And the nurse came, and after I had already like put my pants on, got dressed, put my pants on and everything, put my shoes on and all, she finally comes into the room and is like, do you need help? Ma'am, I'm already ready. And then as she gives me my discharge papers and is wheeling me out of the door, that's when she wanted to ask me when I went out of the door and says, how long have you been having these symptoms? I've already had them for literally a month and a half. The frustration that you receive, and anybody who's been to the hospital and have been misdiagnosed, like you can understand, you know, it's very nerve-wracking when you're trying to tell somebody that this is what's happening to you. And, you know, understandable, it could be a plethora of reasons, but, you know, no one's like really listening to you and trying to have extensive research or anything like, or trying to do extensive research or anything like that. Like it's just not happening. If you're telling them specific symptoms, and it doesn't raise a red flag to be like, maybe I should check this out, it does get a little bit frustrating after a while. It's around Thanksgiving, and it was the first time that I actually made something for myself. During that whole time, I wasn't eating the way that I wanted to, or the way that I usually do. Ordering stuff was becoming too complicated, from having to go from my room to the front door. Cooking was an absolute no-go because I was scared that I might hurt myself or burn myself or something like that, so I didn't cook anymore. I was living on salad, water, and juice, and like sandwiches for 2 months. So I lost a tremendous amount of weight. I think my starting weight was at like 260 something. And by the time I got admitted to a hospital, I was around 200, maybe 190. So I lost a tremendous amount of weight, but we'll get to that later. Thanksgiving rolled around. That was the first time I ever made something for myself, and it took 2 hours for me to make one thing, which was just a pie, because that's all I wanted was a pie. And I wasn't in New York for Thanksgiving, and my mom always makes these great sweet potato pies, so I wanted it, and like I said, it took me 2 hours to do. And then fast forward to December 3rd of 2021, my sister unfortunately passed away due to a sepsis infection from her battle with stomach cancer. She was only 37. Her name was Della Shakia Cobb, and yeah, I just miss her very much. So a lot of turmoil was going on within 2 months or 3 months of me starting the symptoms with this disease and my sister passing. It was just a lot to go through. I ended up going up to New York about 2 weeks later. But traveling by myself was pretty okay. The person that took me to the airport, when he was getting me out of the car at the airport, I fell completely to the ground. Someone had to help. He helped me get up. Someone had to hold my chair and everything like that. It was pretty embarrassing for the most part. Got on the plane. Everything on the plane was fine. And then when I got to my mom's car to go to my sister's wake, it took 3 people to get me into the car alone. I could not stand up. I could not even hold myself up. I had no arm strength. There was just literally nothing that I could do. Like, it was difficult for me to even put my arms up like this. Like, I literally could not do anything. So the wake happened, the funeral happened. I don't want to go into too much detail with that. And the day after Christmas, I went to Lawrence Hospital, which is New York Presbyterian Hospital in Bronxville, and I got admitted almost instantaneously from staying in the ER, and I stayed there for about maybe a week and a half or so, and they did a spinal tap on me as well as an EEG, and some other blood work, an MRI, and it turned out that all of those things were alluding to not only herniated disc that I had in my back from everything that I used to do in my former life, but everything was also alluding to the fact that I might have CIDP. So technically, I got my diagnosis of CIDP December 28th of 2021. So now I know I have CIDP. Where do we go from here? They started me on a treatment called IVIG, which is intravenous immunoglobulin. Yeah. And I started those treatments, did 1 treatment per day for 5 days. And things seemed to make a bit of a turnaround a little bit. It was getting a little bit easier for me to stand up. Just using the walker, taking steps was a little bit easier to do and everything like that. I just wasn't 100% better. So after that 5-day treatment, they transferred me to Burke Rehabilitation Hospital, which is one of the best hospitals, I would say, in the country. They got voted one of USA's best choice hospitals in, I want to say, in the state of New York, if I'm not mistaken. And I started my physical therapy journey while I was there. I wasn't on the IVIG medication while I was there, but still continuing with physical therapy. And it was really crazy to me that, like, you know, physical therapy was going pretty well, but after a while I started to notice that all of those symptoms that I had were coming back, and I was getting weaker, and things just weren't working for me anymore. It was getting tougher and tougher to lift my legs up, to lift my arms up and everything like that. Like, the most that I could lift my arms up was like here, and then my wrist would dangle like this. I had no wrist function. I barely had any finger function at all. So everything started to dwindle, and I would say something about it, and all I would get was, oh, we'll just monitor it, and if anything gets worse, then we'll see what we can do. I never got to see what anybody could do. I got transferred from Burke Rehabilitation Hospital over to a subacute nursing home. Being that my stay there, my insurance was noticing that in my notes I wasn't getting any better, and that staying at this particular hospital wasn't going to do anything for me anyway, so they sent me to a nursing home so that I could receive 24-hour around-the-clock care. So I went to a nursing home. I'm not going to name the nursing home, only because it was kind of a terrible experience, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. Went to the nursing home in late January, and kind of tough to imagine being a 27-year-old, because at the time I was 27, a 27-year-old in a building full of 60, 70, 80, 90-year-olds, and they're having to be taken care of, and you're one of those people that have to be taken care of. It's a very weird place to be, mentally especially. The feeling of loneliness is very, very intense, because you're put in a room. And even though I did want a room by myself, because I didn't necessarily want to be around the other elderly people at the time, even though I did want that for myself, it still felt incredibly lonely. Like, even having my mom come to visit me, having my aunt and my grandma come to visit me, my nephews and everything like that, it was like being so far removed from the outside world, because you're in this place and you're stuck there. You can't just get up and go wherever you want, whenever you want. Someone has to sign you out in order for you to do things. We have to make sure that it's possible for you to do it because of getting someone in and out of a car or whatever the case may be. So it was very, very, very intense. My experience there was pretty difficult. I had to rely on people to bathe me, feed me, brush my teeth, dress me, get me in and out of a chair. Like, they put me in this thing called a Hoyer lift, and basically it's a contraption that they put this big tarp under you, and it lifts you up into the air, kind of like a rotisserie chicken or a turkey. And they put you in your chair, in your wheelchair that you have assigned for you, and that's how you get in and out of the bed. You know, as a young person, it doesn't seem like much to anybody else, but for me, you know, it was kind of a little bit humiliating, if I can be honest, because I have all of these eyes on me. I have all of these people just watching me having to go through this, and you know, it's not the best feeling in the world, if I'm being honest. So I stayed at the nursing home for about a year. During that time, I had another hospital stay in February of 2022, and that's when I got my concrete diagnosis. I had to go through another spinal tap. Again, I'm relying on hospital staff to feed me, bathe me, dress me, all of that good stuff. But I will thank the staff on 5 South floor to no end. If any of you watch this video, especially because of my mom, I'm getting emotional thinking about it, but I appreciate you guys so much. You took such good care of me, and hopefully I get to be able to see all of you, because I miss you guys so much. And I love all of you from morning to night staff. I absolutely love you guys so much. But that's when I got my concrete diagnosis. Got me on a medication program called plasmapheresis, which basically they had to stick a triple catheter in my jugular area, in my jugular vein in my neck. And I had that in for like 10 days. I was getting 5 treatments of plasmapheresis from an outside nurse, or outside pheresis nurse. They would administer the medication for me. And what that is basically, if you think about donating plasma, they're taking the blood from my jugular vein and removing the plasma from it, which holds all of the bad antibodies that I had, and replacing it with another immunoglobulin type substance, medication, whatever. And that's basically just replacing the bad antibodies with the good antibodies, so that my nerves can start repairing and start regenerating and all of that. Went through that treatment for about 2 weeks, and then went back to the nursing home so that I could finish out my stay. During my stay at the nursing home, I got stolen from, it wasn't a large item or that much of a really important item, but it's the principle of the thing. I've had a couple instances of the aides like using my stuff just because they see it in the bathroom and they think that it's okay to just use it. I've had instances where my roommates would not stop talking, so I couldn't sleep. Like, I ended up staying there from January of 2022 to March of 2023. March of 2023, I moved home. As you can see, I'm home now. And at that point, everything started turning around for me. Now that I'm in a more independent space, I'm learning how to do a whole bunch of different things by myself. I spent a good chunk of time the first week just kind of getting acclimated with the house, and my mom was home with me, so she was doing stuff for me that I needed to be done. She would help me with certain things here and there, and I pretty much just took on this whole entire journey with sheer determination and faith, and that's all I had. I currently am under a physical therapy program back with Burke, but just in their outpatient rehab hospital. I've been with them for almost 6 months, and in 5.5 months time, I'm going from being completely wheelchair bound, non-ambulatory, not being able to stand up, walk, or anything like that, to now I can stand up and I can walk around my house. And I'll probably insert a couple clips in here so that you can see the progression of my process from wheelchair bound to walking in wheelchair bound. A lot of progress has been made for me in that I didn't give up on myself. There were a lot of dark days that I was having, I will admit. Not every journey to train yourself how to walk again from paralysis is going to be all sunshine and rainbows. It just don't happen. But gave me a sense of pride in acknowledging the fact that I've come a long way. I'm able to do these things, and I have a story to tell. And I wanted to tell this particular story, being that there are probably plenty of people that are living with this disease and can't diagnose it because either their doctors won't listen to them, they don't have the proper resources, or medical professionals just don't know about the disease. There's a plethora of reasons as to why people cannot get diagnosed. And I would rather talk about my story here, so that people can learn about the disease. You can go back to your family, and if there's something that you might notice, or something that I'm saying that any symptoms that I may have mentioned may sound familiar to you, you can get them the proper help that they need. And like I said, today I'm living a completely independent life for the most part. I'm still living with my mom. Life, I clean my own corner. I put this thing up by myself for the most part. I'm learning how to adapt to certain things and doing a whole bunch of stuff that I used to do, as far as cutting my hair, coloring my hair, doing my nails, doing my toes, getting around and things like that. And I think I also make this video just to show that it is possible for people to be able to recover if you give them the purpose that they need, or give them help them with the motivation that they need, teach them discipline, and teach them tenacity, so that they're able to take their own life into their hands and do whatever it is that they need to do. Please give all the encouragement that you need. And it's also to show that disabled people are still people. Just because somebody's in a wheelchair, or somebody has a vision disability, or somebody has a hearing disability, or someone has a developmental disability, it doesn't mean that you have to treat them in a different way. You don't have to feel sorry for us. We don't, a good majority of us, I won't say all, but a lot of us, we don't want anybody to feel sorry for us. We just want the proper help, and we want to be listened to. We want to be heard. So if you know somebody, or you are somebody with a disability, please encourage us to be people. We want to live life as normally as possible. On my social media, obviously most of you don't follow me, but on my social media, on my Instagram, which is at jayshootin, which is JAY.SHOOTIN, I wanted to ask my followers, who are also my friends, if they had any questions about what was going on with me, or how I was feeling, or anything like that. So they did have some questions for me, so I'm gonna do a cute little Q&A. I feel so cool. Okay, so one of the questions were, how did you know about it? I knew about it through, as I explained before, was the testings that I had. That's how I pretty much got diagnosed, and how I knew about it. One of these questions is more specific to when I was working at a juvenile detention center, back in 2017 to 2018. They asked me, when at the program, did you have knowledge that this was coming? Which is a really good question, because I did not know that it was coming. I know that I didn't mention before, that I believe I was exposed to COVID and possibly caught it and didn't know it. And because of that triggered all of this. So before any of this even happened, I was not aware of what was going on. I didn't know that this was going to happen. I didn't even believe that I was going to be disabled at this point in time in my life, and I'm 29 years old. So I literally had no knowledge of if any of this was even hereditary or anything like that, which even so, the disease is not hereditary, nor is it contagious. So there's still research being done as to how all of this is being caused. But for the most part, it seems like COVID was kind of the culprit for me personally, and possibly for other people with my disease as well. Another question says, how are you feeling now? How is your healing going? My healing is very, very good. And how I'm feeling right now, even though I do have some times where, I may feel like all of this is bullshit. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm tired of being disabled. I just want my life back. Those feelings are very normal for people to have. But how I feel currently, I feel kind of on top of the world a little bit. Being that I'm able to have my mobility back, I'm doing stuff more for myself. I'm as independent as it can be. Like I'm receiving my independence and putting things out into fruition that I've wanted to do for a while. I'm back in school to get my master's in psychology so that I can eventually get my doctorate and open my own mental health practice. Everything's going great for the most part. When did you realize something wasn't right? So like I said before, when after I had my knee injury in July, I started feeling symptoms in early September, and then by October, realizing that I wasn't able to completely walk by myself and I had to use a walker, it was very, very apparent that something wasn't happening the way that it should, or that something was going wrong. So around October is when I started to realize that things weren't kosher. So I had to get that checked out. Another question is, and we can kind of group all of the mental health questions together, basically asking me how I'm feeling mentally, and asking what I do for meditation or for stress relief for spirit when I'm feeling down. Right now my mental state is very good. I want to say I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder while I was at the nursing home, but I don't take medication for it because I have my background in psychology. But I also I don't allow myself to live in those feelings, because if I did allow myself to live in those feelings, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So it does what I needed to do, or at least my brain does what I needed to do sometimes. Sometimes she be doing all right. What I do for meditation or stress relief, I sing to myself a lot. If I feel down and I want to call somebody that I know will lift my spirits up, or I can just shoot the shit with, then I'll call them, and that helps me to feel a little bit better. I listen to music a lot, and I also kind of give myself time to reflect. That's not necessarily a stress reliever, but allowing myself to think about what I'm feeling in that day and how can I put myself in a position to turn that day around and do something better for the next day is usually something that always helps me to not stay in a bad place for too long. Meditation wise, sleep. I do sleep a lot. But I've kind of been listening to, or starting to listen to podcasts. The podcast that I'm currently listening to at the moment is Your Favorite Aunties. And I love their podcast, absolutely. I'll put their podcast in the bottom part of this video so that you can see it. And I've also been getting into stretching a lot more, like yoga type stuff. I've always been a flexible person, even as a dancer. So allowing my body to move a little bit, also working out, allowing myself to do that kind of has been able to take my mind off of things a lot. So that's very helpful for me. Biggest tip for dealing with hard times: don't allow, I said it before, but don't allow yourself to live in those feelings. You know, understand that it is normal for you to feel the way that you feel whenever you're in that moment of feeling something that's really hard. And also, if it's a specific situation that you're dealing with, also understand that hard situations don't last forever. As long as you're willing to put in the effort to get yourself out of that situation, then sometimes knowing that it won't last forever, because you're putting in the work to get out of it, can kind of sometimes bring a little bit of a weird relief to you, in a sense. And also, if you feel a certain type of way, if you're going through hard times, talk to somebody. You know, open your mouth, literally open your mouth. Because old saying goes that closed mouths don't get fed. And if you're not allowing yourself to be open and honest with yourself, then, you know, you're just going to put yourself in a world of detriment. And also, if you're bottling up your feelings or things like that, again, you're putting yourself in a world of detriment. Things are not going to work out in your favor. Things are not going to work out the way that you planned them to. And also, whatever your spiritual beliefs may be, pray. That's the only way I got through this, to be honest. So, you know, there's a lot of different things that you can find and you can do to help you get through hard times, but these are just the things that have worked for me. What's the first song that you're gonna choose to dance to when you start dancing again? That is a very good question, and I guess you're just gonna have to stay tuned to find out. I'll see you when I'm 30. And then last question is, what have been your biggest life lessons due to your illness? My biggest life lessons is to always stay humble, practice everything with humility, because you never know what could happen to you. And to live a prideful life, you know, it's okay to take pride in yourself, but to live a super prideful life where you feel like you don't need anybody and you don't need anything from anybody, can sometimes put you in a very difficult position. So I made sure that I stayed humble throughout this whole process, pray through everything, and just because I have major setbacks such as this, it doesn't mean that my life is over. There's always a way for me to overcome something. And, you know, I've overcome a lot. I've been through a lot. It just made this whole experience, I feel, has made me into a better person, a more understanding person. I'm not as timid as I used to be. You know, I'm strong-willed, but I was still kind of timid. So I'm not as timid as I used to be anymore. It's giving me a lot to really think about and to understand for myself. And I learned a lot about myself as a person, that I'm much, much stronger than I think I am. And I'm very much more capable than I think I am. I feel like a lot of times people underestimate themselves, and they always put themselves in a box of, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if this is gonna be right for me. And it's like, you know what? Fuck that. You can literally do anything that you set your mind to that you feel would work best for you. And if you feel that these things work for you, do it. If you want to do it, do it. If you're scared to do it, do it. If you think that it's not going to work out, do it. Because you never know, it might actually work out. And I also learned a whole plethora of things about a whole community that I'm now a part of. Being disabled, this shit is cool as fuck. if I'm being honest, like, being disabled is really, really cool. I've had a lot of fun so far. I've been able to reach out and connect with a whole bunch of different people. You know, it's just this whole process has really been a saving grace for me. And to be honest, it saved me from myself. But yeah, I guess those are like the biggest things that I could really say that I learned through this whole process. With all of that, and I know this video is super duper long, I don't know how many of you are gonna want to stay for the whole entire thing, but if you do stay and you stay to the end, I really, really, really appreciate you for staying to the end. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm wanting to do a whole bunch more things that are pertaining to CIDP, pertaining to my life, and, you know, doing like little mini vlogs and showing you how I do certain things and everything like that. I'm trying to get more into this whole thing because, like I said, I want to put it out there that this disease is around. There are people who have it. There are people like us who are recovering from it. Not a lot of people post their recovery journey, so I want to be the person to post my recovery journey. So again, I thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good day or night depending on what time you watch this, and I'll see you in the next video.